Hey, what's up? Welcome to the show. In this video, we're going to be going over everything you need to know about MLB Fanduel Daily Fantasy Sports. We're going to be going over everything from very beginning, someone just starting, first time ever playing Fanduel MLB, to the most advanced analytics, even an advanced player. So if you're a little advanced, feel free to move ahead in the video, but I promise there's something in here. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, it helps tremendously. And check out the link below. There's a link to the DFS DOJO Discord, where the dojo drops plays and stacks for every single day of the MLB season to help you get ahead and win some. I also have a live show on this exact channel almost every. So, without further ado, hop right into it. Alright, so we got FanDuel pulled up here. The first thing you need to know is obviously the rules and how you get scored. Let's start out with pitchers. We're going to get negative points for earned run. That's a given. But we also get 3 points for 1 inning pitch. Okay? Pretty simple. 4 points for a quality start. Quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs or less allowed. Strikeouts, which is the big one for me, and a win. So with the pitching stats the way they are, there's no negative for a walk. I'm more inclined on FanDuel to play those high strikeout guys that may be a little wild and walk up you guys. On DK, it's a little different because you're knocked for walks. So moving over to our hitters, 3 points for a single, 6 for a double, 9 for a triple. So your fast guys, I mean, yeah, triples give you more points. But you also get 3 for a walk, hit by pitch, 12 for a home run, all the power guys. And 3.2 for a run, 3 and 6 points for a stolen base. So if you haven't been keeping up with the MLB, a lot of new changes this year. There's a pitch clock, makes it harder to pick guys off. The bases are bigger this year. It definitely favors the fast guys. And it's been a secret strategy of mine for years, finding cheap plays that we could go to that would steal bases because it's worth 6 points per bag stolen. So it's definitely helped me win money in the past. It's a strategy I'm going to be using a lot more this year. Should be a lot more stolen bases. Let's move over to LineStar, my preferred place to look at projections, optimize lineups, etc., and go over the most important thing you can do in DFS. So we're building a lineup here. What can I do that ensures if one guy gets on base, another guy can knock him in? Well, the strategy is called stacking. And what that means is, let's go to Atlanta here. If I have Eddie Rosario in my lineup, he's batting number 3. I want to have Michael Harris here too as the number 4. If Eddie Rosario hits a double, he gets points for that. If Michael Harris hits a home run, he's going to get his points for his home run and his RBI and his 2 runs, or sorry, his run scored. So Eddie is also going to get a point. That's all correlation. The most common strategy is to stack a good team. We don't have a over-under on our lines up here yet. That'll be much more beneficial to see. But Atlanta's probably favored over Washington. Let's say they put up 5 runs. Well, if the 3, 4, and 5 hole hitters put up 4 of those runs and I've stacked them all together, then I not only get points for the runs, also get points for the batters that are in my lineup that drove those runs in as RBIs. So it's a very beneficial tool, and I've seen some data on Reddit said that I think like 68% of lineups had stacks in them. So something to really consider. But let's move back over to our pitchers now. Like I said, I really favor high strikeout guys on on FanDuel. Opening day, we're going to have a lot of those guys. We're going to have to find a good matchup. Blake Snell playing at home versus Colorado. Historically, Colorado does not play very well outside of Colorado because of the elevation. So, here on LineStar, there's a ton of useful stats that's going to help you out. The ones I like, for instance, pitches a game. Simple stat, but it's telling us roundabout how deep that player can go. Remember, we get points for innings pitched, so that's important. If he can go deeper into games, that's more points we can get. Wins. I mean, if the guy wins a lot, he's probably going to be expensive, but we get points for that too. FIP. That is a stat that pretty much says how good his defense is behind him, and that definitely helps with the pitching. ERA, earned run average, you probably know what that is. Walks, hits per inning. Stolen bases allowed. Like I said, that's going to be a new big thing this year. Doesn't really help a lot with when looking for a pitcher, but if I'm looking for a player on the Rockies opposing Blake Snell, it's definitely something I'm going to look into. K rate. I told you I love the strikeouts. I look very deeply into K rate. 33.9%. That's pretty good. I normally try to find a guy that has 35% or higher, and that's the guys I like. But I could definitely work with this because he's facing a bad team, right? It's all about how much research you want to do. For instance, last year, Charlie Morton, he wasn't doing great. He was playing against the Rockies. Everyone stacked the Rockies. I think the most popular player on the slate was Jose Altuve. Well, I'd done a lot of research and I found out Charlie Morton primarily throws breaking balls. Jose Altuve's average against breaking balls, I forget the exact number, like 169 or something. He's terrible. He can't hit breaking balls. He crushes fastballs, can't hit breaking balls. So I faded him and won a lot of money. But that's just an instance that shows you that the more research you do, the more profitable you will be in MLB. And that's what the dojo and LineStar is for. We do all the research for you to try to help you the best we can. K per 9, that's how many strikeouts he gets per 9 innings. Pretty much anything over 1.2-ish is when I start, 1.2 per inning is when I start to take notice. So looking for around 10, 11, 12, and his 12.8, that's good. Walks per 9, 3.5. That's not really that good, but like I said, it doesn't matter as much on FanDuel as it does DK because we're not docked for points. Fantasy points a game, that's just an average of how many points he gets per game. And fantasy points plate attempt. Pretty self-explanatory. And then over here, we can look at the opposing teams. How many plate attempts the Colorado Rockies have had, what their average is, how many runs they've scored, stolen bases, home runs, RBIs, ISO, very important stat for MLB. That is, in short, how powerful the other team is, how many home runs they hit. ISO is a stat that measures how many extra base hits and home runs they hit. Weighted on base average. A weighted average of how often they get on base. I primarily look at weighted on base average plus, because that also determines the park factor. K rate. This is a big one that we look into when trying to find a pitcher. Rockies are not good, but they don't have a terrible K rate. So that means they don't strike out as much as other teams. We want it in the green or a little bit of a higher number. And fantasy points per plate attempt. Self-explanatory. Average batter's salary, pretty much just, you take the 9 guys that are batting and get the average of their salary. This kind of tells, it's a stat I just throw away, I'm going to be honest. But it does tell you a little bit about how good the opponent is. You have the opponent's team's batting versus pitcher stats. This is each individual player on that team's stats versus pitcher. You have a ballpark factor. Some ballparks are better for pitchers, some are better for hitters. Colorado's probably the best place for a hitter. San Diego's more of a pitcher's park. You have a weather tab. Weather is so important in MLB. It's not a DFS sport that you can just make a lineup the night before and be set. You have to be locked in up to lock, and you need to be checking the weather. Games get rained out, they get delayed. Um, and if they do and your lineup's set, then you've just lost that money because the game wasn't played. You're getting all zeros. They even have an umpire stat. I mean, it's going to be controversial. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, but I'm in favor for electronic umps. I think the time has passed where these umps are, determining games. But this stat will determine, if the umpire is locked in, has a good strike zone, or if, they kind of miss some calls. Got the Vegas money line. That's, if you sports bet, what the money line is, Vegas runs, the run total Vegas thinks the team's going to get. We want, for your hitters, you want a high money line, high run line, and for pitchers, a low one. Combined K rate, that's the entire team, including the bullpen's strikeout rate. Moving over to hitters, looks like it's still early. These projections are going to change a ton, but it looks like Byron Buxton is the highest projected hitter right now, taking on Zach Greinke. Let's take a look at his stats, explain what each one means and why that is important. Plate appearances, I mean, self-explanatory. His average, old stat, probably self-explanatory, but how often he gets a hit when he comes up to bat. Stolen bases, like I said, I can't stress it enough. One that is really going to stand out and win you some money this year. If you think that player can get on base, at least, well, it depends on his salary, but if you think he's going to get on base and can snag you a bag, I would bump his projection just a little bit to get him in my lineup. Home runs, everyone knows what a home run is. That's 12 points right there. Plus, you get the point for his run, his RBI. So, home runs, big stat. RBIs, run batted in, big stat. ISO, this is his power number. His is 312. Really good. It means he's got a lot of pop in his bat. Weighted on base average, really good. Then you got his weighted on base plus his ISO. So 686, that's really good. He's a guy I would definitely want in my lineup. Home runs per plate appearance. That's how often he hits a home run for the time he goes up to bat. Then we have a new stat they added this year: home run plus stolen bases per plate attempt. So another one I'm going to be looking big into. Most of the time, your speedy guys are not like Buxton and hit a ton of home runs, but you know, there's outliers. Weighted runs created plus. This is a big stat here. I'm not going to dive too deep into it, but I do recommend it. Weighted runs created plus is pretty much a way to see how many of the team's runs scored he is directly responsible. Then fantasy point per plate attempt. That's a huge stat, right? His is 2.24. So let's just go with the average. Say he's going to get four at bats per game. Well, at 2.24, let's add that up. 2, 4, 6, 8. And we got 4 times 0.24. Basically, he's going to give you 10 fantasy points as a base minimum per game. That's just based on that average. And then we can look at batter righty versus lefty splits. How he does all the same stats, but it's just how he does against the opposite handed pitcher, which is very important in MLB DFS. A lot of guys hit lefties better than they do righties if they're right-handed, or vice versa. If they bat left, they hit better right-handed. And everything else here is about the same until we get over to the splits versus this starting pitcher. So 265, that's the ERA the pitcher has versus the batter. Walks, hits per inning pitched, his average, a weighted, pretty much all the same stats, but they're against this specific starting pitcher. And then we have a lot of the same stats that we had versus for the pitchers, the ballpark. Okay, playing in Kansas City, a little bit more of a batter's ballpark. Currently, it'll change, but this is based on currently the weather's fine. Got the umpire, how often he batted balls. This is a big one I look at a lot. Hard contact. We don't have a stat here, but this is how often he hits the ball hard. And then on the opposite side, how often he makes weak contact. We want that hard contact. Another big one here is barreled balls. And most of the time this is percentage. But that's that sweet spot of the bat where he just hit it perfectly. That's a big one I look at a lot. Average exit velocity. I really like that one too. Guys who hit the ball hard, they have a high velocity. That ball comes off the bat 95 miles an hour plus. Average distance. I don't look into that one too much, but it's definitely in play. Um, and then we got batter plus starting pitcher splits, fantasy points per plate attempt. I can find, I don't see it, but very basic thing is, let's say we're gonna stack the Twins at Buxton. So if I can find Minnesota, so right here we have their batting order. We want to stack this team, right? So let's pull this out. Want to stack this team. Well, I know I want Buxton because he's a good player. So I see he's batting second. So I want guys batting around him. But give me Carlos Correa because he's batting third. And Gallo, oh no, Gallo kind of scares me because he strikes out a lot. So let me just go down to Jorge Polanco, who's batting leadoff. That's a stack right there. He's the one hitter, Buxton's the two hitter, and Correa is the three hitter. I know I've really stressed the stacking thing a lot, but I promise you that is what wins you wins your tournament. So let's say Polanco walks, then Correa singles. We got a guy on first and second, then Buxton hits a home run. So I'm getting points for his walk and his single. And they both scored a run, so I'm getting 3 points for his run and his run. And then Buxton drove him home, so I'm getting points for his RBIs and his home run. The correlation is what wins you and loses you these games. With that being said, we know that Minnesota is playing the Kansas City Royals. Well, we wouldn't want to play Zach Greinke. You don't want to play your pitcher that's facing your batters. So that's another important note. Don't play your pitchers that are taking on your batters. I highly recommend going a little deeper into these splits too. Or, sorry, these stats and analytics. Got it pulled up on my sheet over here. For hitters, just some of my sheet here is their strikeout percentage. 20% is about league average. If they're less than that, they're probably hitting the ball well. You know, they're probably at least putting the ball into play. What happens after that, that's baseball. But that's a good one I look at. Their walk percentage, because I feel like it correlates positively to a good hitter. They walk a lot. They have a good eye. They're seeing the ball well. Worth taking note of. Batting average on balls in play. That's just pretty much how often they hit the ball and it gets in the field for a hit. So, I think that's a good one to look at. Then you look at stats for pitchers, K per nine. I think FIP is worth taking a look at, just to make sure they have a good defense behind them. Uh, Walks to strikeout ratio is another one I think gauges a good hitter. If they're seeing the ball well, they should be walking about what their K rate is. Um, so contact rate, it's how often they make contact. I think that's a good one. Um, on base plus slugging, that's a good one if you don't want to get too into it. But another one I look at a lot that um, I think is going to be very important this year is SBO, stolen base opportunity. Um, it's a stat that measures how often that they're going to take advantage of an opportunity to steal a base. Um, and certain certain guys get the green light more than other guys, right? So it's dependent on a lot of factors. First of all, their speed. Second of all, their coaches and how aggressive they are. Do they let them run? Um, like I said, I think that this year stolen bases will be much more, putting a lot of emphasis on that. But the main thing I want you to take away from this video is number one, stacking. Stack your teams. And we go back to the Twins here. Find them. We want Buxton, right? There he is. So he's batting second. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stack the Twins. And then like, okay, Nick Gordon, he's on the Twins. Let me get him. And I'm like, let's go with Polanco. Okay. Well, we can't get Polanco. Polanco, Gordon. So we have Polanco batting first, Buxton batting second. That's good. They correlate. We know that they're going to be right next to each other in the order, and Buxton will always have a chance to drive Polanco in. But then we have Nick Gordon. He's batting eighth. I mean, the chances of Buxton or Polanco being on base when Gordon comes up to bat pretty low. I mean, it can happen, but it's pretty low. So make sure you guys are in order or close to in order. We'll go back to Buxton, Correa. So that's the 2 and 3 hole hitter. And I'm like, oh, Joey Gallo. I don't know about him. He strikes out a lot. Let me just go with Max Kepler. That's fine. You know, 2, 3, and 5 hole. That's fine. You're just skipping one guy. But I wouldn't really want to skip more than 2 guys for a stack. You know, and I get to this point. I want Buxton. I want Correa. And don't want Gallo. I really need to kind of close in on Kepler here. If it's a short slate with not a lot of options, I may go down to Miranda, but opening day with all these options, thank you. So I'm pretty sure that's about all you guys need to know for just the basics. Stacking, stacking, stolen bases, stolen bases, stolen. With that being said, though, I'm always happy to help you guys out. You can leave me a comment here. You can DM me here. You can always reach me on Discord. I'm in the DFS Dojo. My name in there is Grandpa Jack because I'm old. But guys, I really hope I helped you out. I really, truly do. I hope you're able to win some money this year. And I appreciate and I love all of you guys. Make sure you leave a comment. It helps the video so much. Leave a like. Happy to help you guys any way I can. Click that sub button, join the dojo. Thank you guys. I'm out.